Hey guys, Darren Carr here, coach of Wise Ocean Pods, and welcome back to another episode about AFL Fantasy Preseason. On today's episode, I will be revealing my starting squad for the 2024 season. I've done a lot of tossing and turning over the last week, whether I want to do this, whether I keep it a secret from you guys, or whether I'll be open and honest, but when I look at my squad, I don't think I'm too far off what most people are doing anyway, and I really think this is a trading game, so I've convinced myself that I'm happy to share it with you guys, so I think let's just get into it. But for clarity, this will be the final preseason video, so let's just get into it. So we're here on the AFL Fantasy website once again, and at the time of recording, it is the 13th of March 2024, and as you can see, we are less than 24 hours from the partial lockout, where the Tigers and Carlton face off on Thursday night. So let's just get started into the squad, I guess. So what I'll do a bit different this time around is I won't just go through line by line who I'm selecting. I'll sort of lock in a lot of the players that we already know who's going to be in the squad. They have been highly talked about a lot of the preseason, and I don't want to touch on them too much, and I don't want this video to go too long. So, as I'm also going to touch on some other things after the team reveal. So, alright. So first pick, Harley Reid. Don't need to talk about him too much. He is number one pick from the draft. He's definitely going to be in the West Coast side. His job security is above and beyond when you look at the West Coast, social page. So he'll definitely be there. He'll put a lot of points on his 33 break even. Don't expect huge numbers from him. I expect sort of 60s. So that's all I'm sort of expecting him, and that's why I'm locking him in at 300k price. I think that's enough said about him. Next one is Riley Sanders. Top 5 draft pick from last year. Looks really good so far in the preseason. Looks like he's going to be a lock in the dog side and potentially get some midfield time. Maybe not as much as what we expect, but definitely get some time, and definitely seems like a lock in that side. So, and definitely has shown a lot of scoring potential, even pushing over 90. So he will definitely be one of the cash cows of the year, in my opinion, and even possibly a sneaky for the rising star. So definitely got to need him. Lock him in your side and have him on field, in my opinion. Next one, Kobe McKercher. Similar to Sanders. I think he was the second pick from last year. Job security up. I don't even know how to say it. He's got so much job security. He's going to be in that side all year as long as he stays fit and healthy, I'd imagine, off that half-back role next to Sheasel and Fisher. So I expect him to score quite well. Ball's going to be down north end quite a lot, so expect him to have some decent scores. I'm sort of expecting 70s. I'm not expecting Sheasel levels where he's getting close to 100, if not 110s. So just a bit of different stature, but still plenty of upside in him. Job security is there. Just lock him in. Next rookie I wanted to talk about was just Darren Carr. I think he is a lock in the midfield for the Geelong. All signs in the preseason that he's been the number one guy through there. Obviously a few injuries with Cam Guthrie going down, so it just opens up more spots. Has shown decent fantasy scoring. I think he scored 60s in both the Match Sim and Community Game series. So, yep, I think he's a lock there on the bench at that price. Lock him in. Next one was Darcy Wilson. He came out really strong in the community games. I think he scored like a 70. So, he's already been confirmed that he's debating for St Kilda in round 1. So, he looks like he has plenty of scoring capacity, and I think he's a lock on our bench at this point. And even if you want to field him at this for round 1, is something that I'm looking at as well, considering that Harley Reid has Port Adelaide. But I think we'll touch on that a little bit later as well. Alright, let's keep going through the rookies. I have given Zane Dersma a miss just at that price as a small forward. He did look really good in the Community Series game, but I just think at his price, I think his score is going to be very volatile. Sorry, just given what his role is, the ball may not be down there as much. So I've just passed on him. If he does pop in in round 1 and round 2 sort of thing, I'll jump on pretty quickly and make the moves adjust accordingly. So next one is Matt Roberts. Can't go out without him, in my opinion. He's got that negative 71 break even. He went absolute berserk in round 0. I'll just quickly move these guys over if they want to move over. He's going to make a ton of cash after round 1, possibly even over 100k. He looks like he's cemented himself down back for the Swans, even pushing Lloyd out. So, yeah, you need him. He's probably an even bigger lock than majority of these other rookies at this stage because he's already played in round 0. Sorry. Next rookie, I passed on Shane Manor just because I'm not confident that he's going to play in the round 1 side. Hasn't been any confirmation yet, so but keep an eye on him. He will probably come in at some stage for the year, and he definitely has shown through his rookie numbers that he can score massively, so keep an eye on him. I've passed on Curtin just because I don't think he plays start of the year. Just hasn't shown enough in the preseason, unfortunately, that even if he was named at that 279k price, not interested. Windsor again, I touched on this in the last video that he hasn't shown enough scoring potential for me, even though he's probably a bit more of a lock in the Melbourne side. So I passed on him at that 282k price. I've got Sharp in my set. What just happened here? That's weird. Give me 2 seconds, guys. I don't know why I've just been randomly logged out. That is so weird. You can just look at my beautiful face for a couple seconds while I get this back up and running. There we go. Alright, sorry about that. We'll just quickly get back to where we were. So, Sharp, I've locked him in on this squad just because I think his job security is quite good. For Fremantle being that wingman, he only scored the 51 in the Community Series game, but I think he wasn't very good in that game, and I think he's going to have some much better games to start the year. He's definitely shown a lot of scoring potential his time at the Suns, so I expect him to be better, even push 70. So he's a lock in my side. Like I said, I can make a few adjustments here and there after round 1 if he doesn't pop, and say I can move to a Dersma or something like that with the same sort of cash. So always have those sort of players that you can change quite quickly. Another rookie that I've locked in is Lazaro. He's been similar to Clark, has been sort of a mainstay in the midfield for North Melbourne. Sort of midfield and half forward, so I expect him to play, and he has shown a scoring potential. So I think he scored high 80s in the Community Series game, and even scored quite well in the match sims. Can't remember quite off the top of my head, but he's definitely got some good job security in my opinion. So I've locked him in. Another rookie is Bowes, if it wants to load. We all know what he did in the round 0, sorry. Why is it? What's going on here? Why is it bugging? Show me my scores. There we go. Alright, so he's got that negative 58 break even, if you can believe it. Scored the 71 or 74, I believe, in round 0. You're going to make a bulk amount of cash. As long as he's named round 1, which I'd be very surprised if he's not. You got to lock him in your side because he's going to make some bulk cash very quickly. What is going on? Sorry for all the technical difficulty, guys. I don't know why it's bugging. I guess it's getting close to that lockout time. They're getting everything prepared. I'll just quickly knock off Bennett as my R3. Nothing really to say there. He's just my loop option. I don't think we're going to have any R3 options at this stage. Keep going down. Any more rookie options that I need to grab quickly? Campbell. So we'll just quickly lock in Campbell as well. He also played round 0 and scored a 61 for the Tigers. He's already been locked in for round 1, so which was pleasing to see considering that they had quite a few people come in for their round 1 side. So, but one thing that I'll touch on after the team reveal will be also that we got to remember that just because he has the green tick doesn't mean that he is a lock in that side. He could still be the sub, so something to keep mindful of there. I definitely missed one as well, so quickly chuck him there. This website is bugging so hard. There we go. Let me just quickly fill this spot. Where was he? Let me just search him up. There he is. Zach Reid. So with Zach Reid, I have selected him as my D7 spot just because I think he has some good scoring potential as a rookie. And he's got some decent job security at the moment, given that Ridley went down with an injury. And looking at the injury report that came out on the 12th yesterday, so it looks like Ridley's out for 3 weeks, an estimated 3 weeks. So that's 3 weeks we'll see of him. And if he can put his hand up, we could even see him for a bit longer. So he's going to make some decent coin over that time. So, and I don't think there's many other defender rookies that are putting their hand up. So, but yeah, that's how the rookies are looking at this stage. This is all the rookies that I have in my squad. So that gives you a fair indication of what rookies I'm looking at. So I guess we'll just start going through the other locks that have sort of been, highly mentioned throughout the preseason. So starting at defense, we'll go Hayden Young. He has been the mainstay in my squad all season. Hasn't moved an inch. Priced at 89, 805k. We all know that he's going into the midfield and being that mainstay in the midfield. So he's should definitely improve on his 89 price tag. I even expect him to push just over 100 and be closer to the top 6 range in the defenders. So should be one that you could hold on for majority of the year unless something happens, but I can't imagine anything would go wrong. So lock him in your side. I think 40% have already done it, so jump on board if you haven't already. Sheasel is the next one in my squad at D1. I was very hesitant with Sheasel at first because I wasn't certain on his role, but I think he's shown over the Match Sim and Community Series game that he is definitely a halfback player and he's going to be there for majority of this season. Definitely won't be moving forward at this stage. So, and I think with obviously the retirees of Zeeble and Hall, there's just more points back there, and he's going to be a main kick-in taker, and there's just more points available to increase on that 97 average. So I think he'll be top 2 defenders, really tussling it out with Dacos at this point. I've gone D4 as Elliot Yeo. He is 30% selected or close to that. Obviously an injury risk, as we know, but he's so underpriced at 70 that he's just going to massively put that beside him. And he's done a lot of recovery work over the preseason, even going interstate and overseas, and getting some real professional help. So he's looking fit and healthy, and he's definitely going to put that 70 behind him and push 90s, if not even 100s that he's shown previously. So definitely a lock on my side. The only thing I don't like about this pick is obviously the run that West Coast have at the start of the season. It isn't great, but I think that value is just undeniable. When you're talking 20 points unders, it's hard to ignore. Similarly with this next guy is Zach Williams. So he's one that's sort of been chopped and changed from a lot of people's sides. Obviously, he missed the 2 Match Sim and the Community Series game just through, I think it was management and general soreness, but he got through the round 0 quite well. He scored a 69. really put his hand up. He's got a low break even now. He's obviously well underpriced at his 442k range. Previously has been upwards of a 90 guy, but I'm sort of lowering my expectations to a 70. So I think he was priced at 44. So that's 25 points upside, and it's really hard to ignore at that price. So he's a lock at that D5 spot. D6, there's no really other guy that we've all spoken about Caulfield for pretty much a long time. I think he's been a mainstay for majority of people's sides, just as that D6 spot, just because we have had minimal rookies that we haven't really wanted to have a rookie on field that could drop a very low score. So Caulfield seems to be a lock at that spot for me. Coming over to the Dogs over the preseason, priced at 39, 358k, has shown that he can score 70s in the past. Looks like he's a lock in that best 22 as sort of an what's it called? A marking target down back. So, gonna score well. Should definitely improve on his 39 price tag. So, and you can see why people have jumped on at 28%. So there is that. So that's the back line so far. We'll get into another spot later on. So we'll start in the midfield. So a few locks that I have in here. Where do I want to start? So we'll start with Nick Martin. I think we've all spoken to him about him plenty. He's moved to this half-back role in the off season and has looked really good in the preseason, in the match team, and the community series. I think he scored a 120 in the community series, which is way and above his 85 price tag. Don't expect 120s every week, like I say, but I reckon he could quite easily push 100, if not 105, in that role, being a main distributor, taking the chip marks at the back, even taking some kick-ins. So definitely a few points on offer for him. He has a good run to start the season as well. Got Hawthorn. The only caveat I have with that is just watch out for the Finn McGuinness tag. I do think if Finn is named in the squad, I do think Nick Martin is probably the main target. Some people will say that it would be Merritt, but what Mitchell has done previously, Sam Mitchell obviously, has shown that he's been willing to tag players that are not in the main midfield, and he's backed in his midfield squad to get the contested ball and get it out and get the clearance. So he's thrown it to a Luke Ryan previously, like late in the last season. So I would not be surprised if it goes to Nick Martin. So lock him in. He's at 26% owned, and he'll be at DDP. Sorry, no. Yeah, whatever. He'll become a defender after round 6, so you'll be able to switch him back and start moving on some of these mid prices that you expect to sort of max out in price by then. Another midfield lock that I have had for majority of the preseason, and it may be a bit controversial, but is Zach Butters. I've gone Zach Butters. I know a lot of people have gone off of him after his rolled ankle in the community series game, but I'm not being scared away from that. I still think he is underpriced at his 99 price range. Obviously, we know what he did at the start of last season, where he had three and a half games of where he's played mainly forward and he scored 50s before he went on an absolute tear. So he's definitely a few points under and will continue to develop as only being 23. He'll be alongside Wines and Rosie in the main midfield squad. So, expect him to go pretty well. He's got a good run as well, is one of the main reasons I've picked him. Just looking at Port's run here. Well, why can't I see it? There it is. Obviously, West Coast to start. Tigers, who are also going to be lower end this year. Obviously, then got Melbourne, who's a bit of a tough one, but Essendon, Freo, Pies, and Saints is a really good run. And then has Hawks and North not too long after that before their mid-season bye. So it's a really strong starting squad first half of the year, and I expect him to be quite good and be a captain option for us as well. Another one that's has also been a mainstay, and I think it's surprisingly how highly owned he is, and that is Marcus Bontempelli. 37% owned, which has jumped up quite significantly in the last sort of week and a half, I reckon, because he was only 25% owned not long ago. Obviously, one of the highest priced players in the game behind Tim English and I think Marshall possibly. But looking at his run to start this season, he has a phenomenal run to start the season in the first half. He only comes across 3 harder teams. Also coming up against West Coast, Essendon, St Kilda, Hawthorn, Tigers, those sort of likes, and North as well. So in the first half of the season, so definitely expect a few ceiling scores, and he definitely is a good captain option week in, week out. He's chasing that Brownlow? Yeah, Brownlow. I don't know why I say Coleman. Chasing that Brownlow, so he wants to show that he's worthy, and he will be big again this year. I don't expect him to play any time forward. I know that was a bit of a scare, but we showed in the Community Series game that that's not happening, and I think he scored like a 127, so no issues there, and he didn't even look like he got out of first gear, so lock him in, and I'll just chuck him as my captain for now. I'll leave these last 2 spots because I think they're a bit more of it depends on your squad structure. Definitely no more locks in my opinion there. Move on to the ruck field. So there, all preseason it's been very controversial about who you're going, as there's been 3 sort of main guys that are putting their hand up that are showing plenty of value, in my opinion. So obviously that's Gawn, Grundy, and Xeri. We saw that what Grundy Gawn could do in the match simulations and Community Series games, where I think he went 130, put an absolute monster. But in the round 0, he went up against Grundy and didn't score as well. I think he scored an 87. Looked a bit banged up, but I'm backing him in my squad, as I trust that he will be sort of that top 3 ruckman by the end of the season, or quite early on. I think he could easily push closer to a 110 price range. He has shown that in the past, and even from his stats from last season, where Grundy wasn't in the team and he was solo ruck, that he pushed, I think, 111, even 117 if you count some stats here and there. I think, don't count on that, but I'm backing him in. I'm hoping that I'm not having to trade him out, because he should be close enough to your Marshalls and your Englishes throughout the season that it maybe only be 5 points off them, and that's not going to hurt me too bad. He's also a good captain option, has shown a massive ceiling. I think he scored a 160 last year, or even a 172. I can't remember exactly, but shows a good ceiling, good captain option, and I'll probably get into him a bit later when I talk about captains for my round 1 squad. My R2. Now, there's been a bit of a toss-up between Xeri and Grundy, really just focusing on the value here. I've ended up on Grundy. Obviously, the safety of his round 0 score of 121 really showed that he does have that ceiling. Should have been probably it wasn't a 121, it was a 118, sorry. Should have probably been a 130 score. The game wasn't super great for Ruckman, given that it was so soapy and they couldn't get the marks that they would usually do around the field. So, and he gave away, I think, 4 free kicks against, so it would have been a 130. But definitely showing a good ceiling, looks fit and healthy, looks ready to take on that solo ruck role, and that's really all we needed to see. So lock him in my side, and I think he'll be very close to Gawn, very similar to Gawn anyway, that he can probably push over 100 to 105, maybe not 110, but yeah, definitely has the potential there. Given that he has done it previously and has been the ruck pig previously. So that is my ruck lineup, locking those two in. Let's move on to the forward line. Who are a few locks in there? So we'll just quickly go through a few. We'll go through James Jordan. I think he's been in most people's sides for majority of the preseason. Obviously moved over to West Coast from Melbourne in the preseason, being traded. So he's going to be their main winger, also playing a bit of inside mid with a couple CBAs here and there. So definitely is going to improve on his, I think it was a 50 break even. So expect sort of 70s to 80s from him, and that's 20 to 30 points under. So hard to ignore. Does have the early buy, but I'm not too concerned with that at all. Similar with these guys, I'll probably talk about the early buys after the full team review, and we'll touch on that as well. So that's probably enough said about James Jordan. Maybe the only thing I wanted to also talk about is 41% owned, so it will hurt if you don't start him. But their Sydney's early run for midfielders is pretty good as well. Comes up against West Coast in round 4, and also has Hawks and Essendon and Tigers. So yeah, expect him to start well. So I've locked him in. Next one I want to talk about was Alex Sexton. Obviously, it was sort of a late bolter in the preseason after we got confirmation from Dimmer that he has been shifted to this halfback role, that main distributor role that we've all been looking for. So at that price of 382k, you can't pass it up. Yeah, shown in the match sim in the community series games, and even last week, on the weekend on round 0, he scored an 80 in the the community series game. Sorry, he scored like a 110. I can't remember off the top of my head. I probably should pull it up, but so yeah, he's got a negative 16 break even. He's going to make bulk cash quite quickly. He's got a good roll back there, and expect him to stay quite in there. Well, the only flag I will say is that he may be pushed out of the squad when Lockie Weller returns, but he is not expected until mid-season. So no issues there, and I'd expect him. We probably traded him out by that stage anyway. So no issues there, and he should be good. So lock him in your squad. The only real other lock that I think most people are considering for their forward line is Zach Fisher. Obviously moving over from Colton to North Melbourne in the off-season, and is expected to be playing that half-back role next to Sheasel. Looked really good in the community series games. I think he scored a 117, had plus 30 disposals. Looked really good, and sort of my comparison is Daniel Rioli. So definitely going to increase on his 69 average and be pretty much locked into that top 6 forward, I'd say, if he can push closer to 90, if not 100. Because the forward line is so thin at this point in time that 90 probably solidifies your position, unless we get some DDPs that lock people in. So I've got him in there. Like I said about Sheasel and stuff. Their run isn't great for, defenders. GWS, Freo. Colton's on the right one, but it's not great. But I expect him with that role change and how many points that should be back there, with the ball pretty much living back there, that he should be plenty of points. Should get plenty of points. We'll be taking a few kickouts here and there next to Sheasel, so lock him in. I really like the pick. Alrighty, so that's really all the locks I think that are in most people's sides, right? So this is what most people's sides look like to start, and there's really only very few select picks that you need to determine from here. So I think what I'll do is I'll start in the forward line. I think this is probably not as controversial as most people. So I've gone with my F1 as Isaac Heaney. we saw in round 0 that he went 121, had a massive game playing predominantly midfield. I think he had like 70% CBAs. So having that security of him having that score already locked in with the Sydney run is something that I wasn't considering until that obviously popped up. Obviously, he's one that we've known he was playing midfield role in the preseason, but it's happened so many times that he plays midfield in the preseason, but then switches back to the half forward role for the remainder of the season and just consistently scores that sort of 70 to 80, or I think even 80 to 90. So, but it looks like while Luke Parker and Taylor Adams are out of the side, which is believed to be, where's Sydney, to be 4 weeks for both of them. So we've got Luke Parker 4 weeks, even Sheldrick's out for 4 weeks. Taylor Adams is 2 to 3 weeks, and then you got Callum Mills, who's not even back till mid-season. So there's so many of those midfield guys that are out at the moment that I think Heaney stays in there, at least for the short term, and I think he can make some quick cash quite quickly over the until his early bye in round 5, especially because he comes up against Tigers and West Coast and Essendon. So expect him to jump up, and that's why I've sort of selected him as my F1. Sorry. My F3 spot is a bit not as controversial as well. I think it's pretty obvious that Nat 5 is highly owned. Been thrown back in the midfield for Freo. He shown in the preseason games that he definitely can rack up the ball, can get plenty of touches. I think he had 26 touches in the Community Series game, but only scored like a 54 or 56 or something like that, which was a little bit disappointing, but I expect him in the real season to really spread and get a lot more of those tackles and marks around the ground. I think he was just taking it quite easy in the preseason just to really let his body get used to being that main midfielder again that we haven't seen for quite some time since his Brownlow years. So definitely a lot of upside there with his 54. I expect him to be closer to 75 to an 80, alongside Young and Sarong, and Brayshaw will also be in there as well. But yeah, I think he's a good pick, especially with no early bye. There could be a lot of people that sort of fill this spot, in my opinion. Like you've got a Elijah Sardis that I was also quite hot on all preseason. I think he's around 10% owned. Plays for Essendon. Has a wing role, so that's the only reason I probably haven't selected him. I like Nat Fife's. I'll just bring him up here. I do like Nat Fife's role a little bit better just because he is in around that midfield rotation and will get more chances of getting the ball. So that's the only reason I haven't gone for Elijah Sardis at this point in time. Also, there was a Cam McKenzie that was also getting wing time and some CBAs for Hawthorn, especially with Will Day out. So is a little bit cheaper than both options, but I think just a safety with Nat 5, who is a little bit more expensive, but has the role, has shown it previously. Obviously, most of the competition has jumped on him as well. Just the security in him is nice. Alright, so that is the forward line done. Let's just move to the midfield line, because I personally find that this D2 spot has been the most tricky in my thought process all preseason. I've really had to think about this multiple times. So as my M2, and probably a bit of surprise to some people, that it is actually Zach Merritt. We've all known that Zach Merritt has been one of the fantasy gods for many, many years. I think since his debate season in 2015, he's averaged over 100, so he's priced at 112. I like his run to start the season, especially with Hawthorn up front. Like I said, obviously caveat that Finn isn't named, and it is highly spoken that he won't tag Merritt. Captain of the side for Essendon. I can't see a regression, and if it is a slight regression, then it's going to be very minor. He should be top 8 midfield, so I've locked him in. Not a huge amount of value, like I said, but I think just given that it's such a safe pick, and I had the money left over, to be honest, I thought, why not slap him in there. M4 is probably one that not many people are considering, but people have jumped on, and it is Jai Newcomb. So I'm expecting a breakout from him this year. He's priced at that 93. Looking at the the preseason games, and even his stats from the late last season, he looked to really take that next step up, where his team had to sort of looking for him a little bit more. He's getting a lot more of the marks around the game, and using his booming left kick to really penetrate the ball through into the forward 50 for Hawthorn. So I think they're really utilising him in that role. He's obviously got that 80% role, midfield role for them, especially with Will Day out. I think he's that main guy. Let's just bring up Will Day. What is his timeline? Will Day doesn't even mention it, so we really don't know when he's back. I think the inside word from Hawthorn is that he's probably expected back a month into the season, so say 4 or 5 weeks. So I think we'll at least get quite a few decent scores from him early on, and yeah, I think he's my sneaky to have a breakout season and push 105 and get himself up to, very uber premium territory, and be one that we can hold on until sort of back end of the year. Now the dreaded D2 spot. Now, before I get into who my selection is for this, I just wanted to show what my thought process is for this spot. So Whitfield, he obviously came out in the in round 0 and put up a 137 and put his hand up that he can be that top 6 defender once again. We've seen it in the past where he's been that main distributor. He's got an awesome run with North Melbourne and West Coast before his early bye, so he could really boost his price quite quickly early on in the season and really have a high average and get your season off to the right setting. So he's a good option. I've been pretty hot on Tom Stewart all pre-season. Obviously with the awesome run for defenders for the Cats. Obviously he had an injured game last year, which was like a 4, so he was already a few points unders, and I expected him to go closer to 100, if not over 100 this season. Wanganeen Malera, especially while Sinclair is out, showing that he can improve on his 91 average. I think he went 99 in the back end of last season, so he has some points left on the table that he can push as well. Luke Ryan was top 6 last year as well, so we obviously know he can score big. Houston, with a few more defenders at Port, you got your Radigalia, Ali, and now Zerk Thatcher as sort of their main tools. Sort of frees up Houston a little bit more, in my opinion, so he could definitely get a bit of a bump. We've seen some huge scores from him in the past, and obviously Port's run is something to consider. Jane Short, very similar. We've seen what he did in the preseason. He went 103 in round 0, and now he's got to break into 76, so he will increase on his price. I don't expect too much of a role change from him. I think it's just more getting more responsibility to take some more of those kick-ins and just having a better consistency with a new coach, given that Dimmer left Richmond in the middle of last season. So also Newman, now that Doherty has had a ACL injury and will be out for the season, it really boosts his stocks again, that he could be that guy that we saw in the back end of last season where he was averaging 130s. So there's just so many guys that can fill that sort of that D2 spot for me. And we're not even talking about a day cost as well. Obviously, we know how highly owned he is at that 53 I'm just avoiding it at this stage, just because, like I said, the tags will come, the early buy, and I don't think he's super undervalued that I can't wait until a later stage to jump on. And there's also a Sinclair as well, who will also be up there in the top 6 range. So, and I've spoken about Sicily. I don't know why he's still 16%. I expect him to be a huge slider this year and drop down to probably even an 80 score, an 80 average, sorry, just with a few injuries at Hawthorn and him having to be a bit more of an accountable defender. So for those, there's many reasons why it's caused me troubles, but I think I've just gone for a bit of safety here and sort of been a bit reactionary with the round 0 score, but I've gone with a Lockie Whitfield. Like I said, he got that massive 137. Not trying to chase points, I'm just chasing the price rise. He's going to obviously got a low break here, and he's going to jump up possibly 40 to 50k if he can put up close to 100 again. Got that nice run to start the season against North and West Coast before his early bye, and then he has Suns and St Kilda. So I think he can get your season off on the right foot, and I think he's just a safe pick here. And if he has the season that he is that main distributor role, which we saw on the weekend, he could definitely push top 6, in my opinion. So, alrighty, so that is my team. So I've got 27k left in the bank. It's not a huge amount. I normally do like to have closer to 100 just to allow myself to do some moves after round 1 if I need to, jump on a mid-pricer that's popped, or even a couple rookies that have jumped up out on us like we get most years. So, but realistically, this all depends on the team selection. So team selections will be happening Thursday night, 6:20 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So we'll know who's been selected. So if any of these rookies aren't selected, then I can obviously just trade them out and get someone else in, and that could probably save me some cash, and I can bump that up to close to 100k. Let's just get rid of this. I don't know if I wanted to do this or not, but another team that I was sort of playing around with, if you're not comfortable with a Zach Merritt and going so guns and rookie sort of ways, was getting rid of him and getting in one player that isn't highly owned, but I am quite hot on, in Max Holmes. He's only 2.5% owned. We obviously know that Geelong have this great run to start the season. We've spoken about it a lot with Tom Stewart, and I just think he's gone above Tom Stewart and has taken that main distributor role. We've seen it in the practice match where he scored an 88 in, I think, just under three quarters of the game before being taken out for precautionary reasons. It's been widely spoken that he's going to be taking this halfback role and be that main distributor and provide that run and carry. So I definitely think he has a lot of upside on that 75. So he was a bit of a smoky, but I think I've decided that it's not worth the risk at this point in time. I think there's better options, but it was also with that selection, obviously with a bit more coin in the bank, I was also removing a rookie here, whether that was a Reed, a Lazaro, Windsor, or a Campbell. I'll just remove Lazaro at this stage just to show you, but I was going with a Sardis because I'm also quite hot on him. So those would probably be my two sort of pod picks in my opinion. Obviously below 10%, they're pretty on demand, so I don't not many people have them, and they could kick your season off to start quite well. So especially with Parrish being out for round 1 and 2, I believe that's what I said. Oh, wrong one. Let's quickly go to Essendon. Parrish, where are you? Hamstring 1 to 2. So that could mean that Elijah Sardis could possibly get some midfield time we obviously know that he was a midfielder in his juniors, so he definitely has a lot of upside on his 52 and showed plenty in his pre-season. So, but I think in terms of what's safe and what I feel comfortable with, I think I'm going to stick with my Merritt and a Lazaro to gain me some more cash. So, but yeah, alright, so let's just quickly summarise my squad. So, obviously got Sheasel, Whitfield, Young, Yo, Williams, Caulfield, Reed, and Bowes in the defence line. Bontempelli, Merritt, Butters, Newcomb, Martin, McKercher, Sanders, Roberts, Sharp, and Clark in the midfield. Gaunt, Grundy, and Barnett in as R3. Heaney, Fisher, Fife, Jordan, Sexton, Reed, Lazaro, Wilson, and Campbell in the forward lines and utility spots. So that's a quick summary. What I'm looking at doing for my captain options for round 1 is really looking at going Zach Merritt as a VC against Hawthorn on the Saturday morning. They play the third game into the round, and Hawthorn have traditionally been a pretty easy opponent for midfielders to score against, so I expect him to score quite well there. Obviously, he has shown quite a ceiling in the past. Obviously, if Finn is named, then I may look elsewhere just to make sure I'm happy, just so I can avoid that risk. Also got captain options of Shees or Whitfield can even put up a big score. Hayden Young, probably won't do Hayden Young against the Lions. Whitfield against North could definitely be a juicy one. Probably wouldn't do Sheasel against GWS, but definitely something to consider. Bontempelli is obviously quite a good one as well, but he plays Melbourne, who are normally a tough matchup, so I may avoid it this week. Butters against West Coast could be a good one as well, just whether I want to jump straight into him as a captain option. They don't play until the Saturday, I believe. Let me just quickly get that up. The Sunday, sorry, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they don't play until Sunday Arvo, so the second to last game. So will definitely have to be a captain option, and I don't know if I'm comfortable with him having a captain on him at this point, just because obviously that rolled ankle. But I don't expect it to be too much. Just probably not a captain option, but I'm happy with the selection. Wouldn't trust Newcomb or Martin at this stage. I want to see a bit more from them. Gawn's obviously a real good captain option as well. I think he'll be my backup, my actual captain option, following on from Merritt as a VC. Up against Tim English at the Bulldogs. English has traditionally been quite an easy ruckman to score against, just because he's so, that's another midfielder essentially, and likes to run and gives a lot of these ruckmen a lot of free space, so they can get a lot of those marks and stuff. So, yep, like him as a captain option. I wouldn't trust Grundy at this stage with a captain option. I know he showed a good ceiling on the weekend, but he's up against the Pies first up. So you got Mason Cox and Darcy Cameron, who are typically a harder matchup for Ruckman. So, and obviously his ex-teammates couple of years back now, but I'd expect them to get sort of stuck into him a fair bit, and he could struggle to score the start of the season. So, but lock him in. He's good for the long haul, and will have an easier run following for that game, especially when it comes up against Tigers and West Coast in round 3 and 4. Wouldn't really trust anyone from the forward line. Maybe a Fisher after some time, and a Heaney. But just with the, they're not around the ball as such. Maybe Heaney a bit more than a Fisher, but just with the unknown about when his role is going to change and whatnot is enough not to make me pick him. But yeah, that's what my captain options are looking like for round 1. Obviously, I'll be using Barnett as my VC loop. So say Zach Merritt goes well and scores, say, above 110, probably 110, sort of a good starting benchmarker at the start of the season to get your season off strong. Then I'll be putting a Barnett on the field and be putting a Max Gawn on the bench with the emergency. So he'll get a 0. I'll get Max Gawn's score on the field, and Merritt's score will be doubled to 220. So that's just something to consider. I know some people in the comments asked how the VC loop work, so that's hopefully explained it enough. And in summary, it's just that because Zach Merritt plays earlier, I put the VC on him. Barnett doesn't play until the second last game, so I'm able to use him as that VC loop. But I have to do that before Gawn plays, which is the third last game on the Sunday. So hopefully that explains it. It's a bit confusing. It takes a little while to get your head around it, but after some time it does get easier and it just comes off the tongue. So that's all I really had for my team. I think it's pretty solid. I think it's not hugely different in my opinion from what most people are doing. Obviously, I think the only one that's under really 10% value was Zach Merritt at 7%. I think everyone else is quite highly owned. Grundy gone. I think Newcomb's probably the next one at only 13%. And obviously the rookies are variable here and there. I think Campbell's only 9.5%, but I think I touched on him because of his low break even. I'm just jumping on that cash rise, expecting him to jump up quite quickly. And I think it's pretty stock standard. I think this is a good starting base for me. Obviously, it is a trading game at the end of the day, so round one team isn't hugely relevant. Like, I didn't have the perfect team last year in my fantasy winning year, so I definitely could have had a better squad, but it's also a trading game, so it's about who you trade in. So just a touch base on what to expect over the next sort of 24 hours. So obviously we'll get team announcements on Thursday night at 6:20 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So that will name all these squads, including the 26-man squads on Friday. And those will be trimmed down to the 23-man squads at 5 p.m. on a Friday night. So just to keep that in mind. Also, a reminder about the sub rule. So I'll bring up the teams that we have so far. So we only have the Thursday night team. Obviously, it's Wednesday night now. So these got released a couple hours ago. So what we had for Carlton and Richmond was that Durden came in for Doherty. He was out with his ACL. Martin, Lynch, Nankervis, and Mansell came in for the Richmond Tigers. No one really to mention to take out for the Tigers. No one that was really relevant. But the way things are working for this year is that the sub is being named from the official 23-man squad. So if you're looking at the Richmond Tigers, obviously they have 23 people named, and any one of them can be the sub. So it doesn't have to be from the bench. It can be from the field as well. But typically, what we've seen from last week, the sub was always from the bench. So hopefully that stays consistent. I'd say it'd be a sort of a late minute decision if they were to select someone from the field. So that's what my point was earlier on about a Campbell. Even though he has the green tick to say that he's playing in round one, my concern is that he is the last named on the bench. And of the people here, I sort of expect he could be that sub. So if he is named a sub, then he will come out of my side, and I'll put in someone else that I think is a bit better. That could be. I'd probably have to do a bit of a reshuffle because I couldn't afford Windsor, but there would be someone else that pops up that is. I'd probably put a Cadman in. Who's at that 221k range. So it'd just be a quick bang. I could afford that. 6k left. I didn't originally have Cadman in my squad just because I don't think his scoring potential is too much, but he did score well on the weekend. I touched on this in the round 0 review. He could go quite well to start the season, obviously coming up against North and West Coast as a full forward, could kick a few bags and really jump up his price quickly. But I've gone the safer route and just gone with a Campbell at this stage. as he is confirmed to definitely rise in price because he's already had that one score in his price movements of 61. So just something to mention there. I just wanted to touch on that because it can be a bit confusing with how things are working this season. Alright, so that's the team. Now I wanted to touch on what my YouTube channel will look like for the remainder of the season. So I expect I'm going to be doing 1 or 2 videos a week. So one video will be a quick review of what my team performance is. So I'll just be going through my team, what they scored, who did well, who did not, doing +3s and -3s, as you've probably seen previous years and for most of the content creators. Reviewing my captain score and who I should have backed in, etc. And also looking at how my trade-ins performed and what my other options would have been like. So say I traded in Jack Steele and a rookie, but I was also looking at trading someone else and another 2 players, looking at what option would have been better at the end of the day. And also just touching on the important players of each of the played games of that round, just to be something to consider when you're looking at your trade-ins and stuff. I expect that to be a sort of a 40-minute video, probably early on in the week, sort of like a Monday or a Tuesday. Really just knocking that out quite early on, depending obviously when the games finish for the round. Obviously some of them finish on a Sunday night, some finish on a Monday night, even on a Tuesday night, so that may fluctuate a little bit throughout the season. And the second video will be just a quick 20 to 25 minute video of what my trade targets are going to be. Hopefully I can reveal my trade targets because I should be doing it later on in the week, probably after Thursday night teams are revealed. That's where we're playing. After Thursday night teams are revealed, then I can lock in what my trades are going to be. And if things do change after that point, obviously, because I can change that up until sort of Friday night or something like that, then you can find me on Twitter at Wise Ocean Pods, and I'll post any updates on there, as I should be a bit more active in the season. Also in that video, I'll go through what my top captain picks are going to be. So sort of like what Calvin does and a few other content creators, they go through their probably top 5. I'll try and not be too similar to them. I did do pretty well as a captain pick. I averaged over 120 for my captains last season, so do feel like I have a good eye for my captains overall, so I thought might as well throw that in there. It's pretty quick and simple. And also just previewing the round to come, what I'm sort of expecting and what rookies you should be fielding in substitute for some other rookies, and playing that little bit of rookie roulette. So, but yes, I think that does it for this final video for the pre-season. I don't think I really wanted to touch on too much else. That really covers everything that we've talked about this pre-season. It's finally here. We're less than 24 hours, down to 19 hours now. Scary time, especially for me, being the previous winner from last year. Got a pretty big target on my back, I would say. Hopefully I can back it up and prove to be a pretty good coach again. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident in my squad. I've really taken my game to the next level compared to last season, just with obviously producing content, doing a bit more of a deeper dive with taking this a bit more seriously than I have in previous years. But that's all I really want to talk about for today, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed all the content to date and have enjoyed this team reveal. Feel free to copy it if you want to. I couldn't care at the end of the day. We're all in the same boat, and I wouldn't be surprised if people even have this team already. So, but let me know who you think you would change out. Obviously, I want to hear a lot of your comments about who are some sneaky picks that you are considering for this year. There's obviously a lot of good picks out there and a lot of different team structures. I've obviously gone the 3 rookies on field. I know people are playing with 2. I just can't leave one of these 3 on the bench in this point in time. So, alright, enough blabbling from me. Have a awesome preseason. Best of luck for the season to come. Hopefully your cash cows fatten and your mid prices shoot up in price. Yeah, you'll be hearing from me obviously every week. So hopefully you've enjoyed, and please leave a subscribe if you're interested to see how I go for the next over the season. So that's it for me. Have a good one. Bye.